Hello, beautiful and lovely gamers. My name is Jonal. Roku, something that has been talked a lot about and seems to be a topic that a lot of the community members at least want in the game. I decided to make a designated video from the perspective of a coach, from the perspective, of course, also as a player, what Roku will do to the game and why I am not sold on the idea yet. And I would like to hear your opinions on it, because this is opinions, this is point of views and understanding that kind of things. So I would like to hear your opinions down below, if you're pro or con, and I would like to hear why or why not do you want Roku. I will of course give my opinion on this. Of course, if you want to hire me this summer as a private coach, it's 50 euros for a 2-hour session. If you want to improve over the summer, doesn't matter if you're bronze or top 500, doesn't matter what role you play or something like that, I can coach anything and help you improve and rank up. So hit me up on our Discord server, it's linked down in the description, and of course you could also just join there just because there's an awesome community with some amazing people. Being active in that chat and just talking, just having a good time is always nice. So I hope I see you there, but without further ado, let's just begin. The problem with Roku, in my opinion, is that, okay, so people want a 2-2-2 role lock, meaning you play 2 tanks, 2 supports, and 2 DPSs. Multiple ways to implement this. One of the way to avoid trolling, right? Because you got tank. Bastion is a tank, and then he locks Bastion, right? To avoid trolling, a lot of people want it to be, if you got tank, you have access to the tank roster and nothing else. If you got DPS, you have access to the DPS roster, and if you got support, you have access to the support roster. Problem with that is, at least for me, and this might be the intended usage of it, is that in solo queue, I sometimes flex, even though we have 2 tanks, over to a 3rd tank, because I need to be more present in the main group. And for example, I sometimes roll to Roadhog, because I need to be with my team and be able to physically be on the objective and do damage there, but I also need to have some form of range, so Reaper doesn't work, right? And therefore I lock Roadhog, even though we already have, for example, Ryan Saria. And I will play that as a flex DPS, so I can win my game. If they limit that, then I'm all of a sudden stuck on whatever DPS heroes are available right now. Another issue with this kind of lock is for the competitive scene, where a lot of people want to see it, is that, so what will happen if we lock it to 2-2-2? What is the most dominating 2-2-2 team composition? Because a lot of people think that 2-2-2 immediately would do that. Everybody plays Ryan Saria, and then 2 DPS and then 2 supports, because that's what most people want. In solo queue, most likely we see a bunch of off tanks, Q, because there's a lot of off tank players and very few main tank players. So we probably see a lot of off tank players with tank compositions, because, well, we gotta have 2 tanks. For example, Ham and Hog wouldn't be surprising to see. And in competitive Overwatch, you will probably see a lot more bunker, and you will probably see a lot more dive. And right now, if you really want to be meta about it, you should see a lot more bunker in your rank comps, and especially if you lock it to 2-2-2, because all of a sudden there's no goats to run down the bunker. So at that point, it's like, okay, play dive into bunker, no thank you. Solo tanking Hammond doesn't work, so we leave one of our tanks behind, or we also just counter with another bunker. So at that point, it's like, the meta doesn't really shift to something better. It kind of just like, we can play dive, we can play bunker. 2-2-2, like Ryan Saria, is a very old school team composition that a lot of teams already know how to play against. A lot of old school players know how to play against Ryan Saria with dive comps, as dive was so dominant for that exact reason. It did replace a lot of the old Ryan Saria combos with the immense high control and just verticality of dive. On top of that, okay, so if it's not a role lock, it's a role, like, you can play this if you want to, but then it's like, okay, so what if I am locking DPS and I swap to Hog? Do I get reported now? Most likely not. I'm pretty sure that most people will be okay with me swapping to Hog. Notice if I do it the other way around. If I play tank, if I locked into off tank, and I'm like, okay, shit, I need to play Sombra against this team composition. Okay, I know none of my DPSs, then I log Sombra. I can now be reported for locking my best pick against this team composition. You could say, well, then should I lock DPS, but what if I am an off-tank main that also plays Sombra, and in this situation, I need to play Sombra? Or what if I need to play Brig? I swapped off tank to play support, right? At that point, there's a lot of report options, and should Blizzard then enforce you not playing your designated role because you thought that was the best idea? Because that's not throwing the game, that's you trying to win. So at that point, that leaves a very big, like, kind of, what can I say, not moral question, but it's like a question about, like, is it throwing? Because right now it seems like role lock is something people want to control the DPS players, to make sure that there are 2 DPS players and no more in your games. The tank players are not. Most people that I meet are never mad at a DPS player swapping to support or swapping to tank, but most people are mad if a support swap to DPS or tank swap to DPS. So right now it seems like what people actually want is a DPS role limit. So there's only 2 DPS players in the East lobby. And now come on to the third problem of mine, and that is, if we look at a game that has a role lock invitation, which is League of Legends, it says that you are bot lane, you are ADC, you're support, you are mid lane, or you're top lane, and you're jungler. It doesn't enforce what champion you play in those roles. It doesn't care. Like, you can play Yasuo support, you can play Teemo jungle, you can play whatever. I'm not very good at the meta, so there's probably someone down in the comments that like, technically you can actually play those, right? But you can play non-meta picks, right? You can play Fiddlestick jungle, or something like that, right? You can do that in League, and I don't think it's a bannable offense, as long as you play your role, as I understand it. And you can say, okay, that's great, but you can't implement that in Overwatch, because there isn't a designated item building, so you can't say, oh, I built tank because I bought tank items. You can't say, oh, I'm playing my position because I'm in my lane with my summoner abilities. That's not how Overwatch works. You can't say that I'm a tank if I'm a Genji. I'm not a tank, even how much value I think I'm getting out of the flag. It just doesn't work that way. So you can't put a role like in League. But what we also seen for League is, of course, there's a fill. There's an auto filler, because there's not enough support players, not enough junglers or whatever. So you queue, there's a big chance that you can be, well, there's a chance that you will be filled into a role. And that is where I really get scared about Overwatch. In Overwatch, for example, main tanks are very rare. So let's say that okay, you queue, and one of the DPS players, because there's a significant more amount of DPS players, gets tank. And even worse, if it's like main tank, off tank, flex DPS, main DPS, support, off support, right? Or flex support and main support, as it's called, right? And you get Ryan, and you are a Tracer main. Oh god, no, please don't. That I don't want that. I don't want people that shit on their heroes in my games, on my team. I rather want solo tank Hammond with people that are, and solo Hilana with 4 DPSs, that all of these players, the Ana is good, the Hammond is good, my DPSs are good, and I'm good, then a shit Ryan, a shit Zarya, a good Ana, a shit fucking Sen that just feeds out of positions, and then 2 decent DPSs. I much rather want everybody good on their role. And personally, I understand the problem with ranked. That, okay, you don't get supports, or you don't get tanks or something like that, and it can be difficult to play against or play as. One option is, of course, to you yourself learn that role or that position. For example, I learned Hammond, just because I sometimes need to Hammond. I also learned Hog, which is a off tank that I can use in against certain team compositions to just break shields and hook people out if we don't have someone to, for example, push a payload on a tank. I also learned Zarya, mostly for team play, for competitive team play and so on. But also because, well, sometimes I like to off-tank Zarya with my Ryan. If I feel that my main group needs a Zarya, I'll pick Zarya and play Zarya with my Ryan help, for example, if that's needed, right? And so on. So I've learned certain heroes. I also know a couple of support, even though I don't play support, because I don't think I have enough impact on a match as a support player if I don't want to play it, because I feel like I will do better on other heroes in that scenario. But there have been times where I have locked Ana or Moira or someone else in GM and try to play around that. If I feel that my team is good enough to do that, we just need more healing because our other healers can destroy it. I understand the frustration. I just don't see role lock working. I think it will just force us to play more dive and more like bunker in higher tier competitive play. I also think it takes away the creative, like when I make team composition with teams. The fact that I can experiment and make team composition with whatever I have is such a fun experience for me, and it gives, you know, a surprise, a tactical thing to Overwatch, compared to limiting it to, okay, I need from 2 tanks, I must have 2 support, I must have 2 DPSs, was a team composition not viable for competitive play anymore. Instead of having it like that, rather, okay, maybe I can try 3 tanks, maybe I can play with 1 tank, maybe I can play with no tanks at all, maybe I can play with 4 DPS, 4 supports, or something similar, right? The fact that I can do that, for my opinion, is also more flexible. Not having a role fill where I get shit players on shit heroes that doesn't want to play it. The fact that people think this will force in Ryan Zarya combos is wrong. It will most likely force in Bunker more in competitive plays. Bunker is already getting played too much, and we don't even have role queue right now. And people are still locking in Bunker because it's the most effective right now, and people struggle playing against it. So that is my personal take on Bunker. On role lock and role queue. I don't think what I want is and I've said this before, a suggestion system. And tell me if you agree with me. I prefer to play DPS. I prefer to play support. I prefer to play tank. And then you queue. And then you get one of those roles. And that means that I have that according to the matchmaker right now, there's nothing wrong if you don't follow the matchmaker. According to the matchmaker, you said that you want to play tank or support or whatever. So you will get that role on the team, and this is more to balance. So at least there's one support player on the team, and at least there's one guy at least who said that he wants to play support, and at least one guy tried to say, hey, I want to play tank. And the rest is like kind of, we're trying to make it as balanced, like 2-2 as possible. But if you don't want to play tank and so on, then you also have an off role or whatever, right? So maybe, and then the game just says, you said that you want to play tank and support. You got one of those roles. Please play it. You don't have to play it, but if you don't play tank and or support too many times in a row, like if you constantly queue for support and you never pick support and you get reported enough, and we see, okay, so he has been saying that he wants support now 7 games in a row and he always locked DPS for faster queue times, then a report is valid and that guy gets a competitive timeout or ban or something similar, where he is forced to, or maybe that limits, or maybe at that point they do limit him to a role or something like that, right? I rather want that. I think a suggestion system like that will work a billion times better than a forced role lock, where it's just to help out the matchmaker. The matchmaker will give you a role that you think is okay, and you can then flex out of it if you want to, but you're not forced out of it, right? You're not forced into a team to something, and if you queue for something for too long, you get punished. I think that is the most optimal way of doing a role queue system without breaking anything. That way you can still in competitive teams play 6 DPS because, well, we just said that everybody wanted DPS, right? So you can then make whatever team composition you want on the competitive scene, and in ranked it will help balance the ladder a little bit more, just because the matchmaker will have more options to pull from. I think that is a really, really good idea. And I would like to hear if you made it to the end of the video, do you agree with that topic or do you completely disagree? Well, I would love to hear your opinions down in the comment section. As always, if you want to hire me as a private coach, hit me up on Discord. It's 50 euros. And I hope I see you guys very, very soon. Please have a lovely summer. I love you guys very much. As always, guys, my name is Jonal. You guys take care of yourself. And as always, keep the enemy in your crosshair.